Hey, it's Angela from the blog Angela Marie Made. Today I'm sharing how Brandon and I built our DIY wall cabinets and doors for the start of our laundry room makeover. These aren't your standard looking cabinets. I wanted them to look custom, high-end, and beautiful, just like you see in all of those designer kitchens and laundry rooms on Pinterest. To get that look, we built these doors with a face frame, inset doors, and crown molding. But don't let these more custom style cabinets intimidate you. I'm breaking it down step by step today on how to build them. Also, I have a cut list, tutorial, and printable build plans for this DIY wall cabinet that you can get on my blog, which is linked below this video. Okay, let's get started. The first step is to make the initial lumber cuts. We had our local home improvement store make some of our plywood cuts for the cabinet. Then we made the rest of the cuts with a circular saw and straight edge guide, as well as our miter saw. A table saw can be used too. Again, you can get the full cut list on my blog, linked below this video. The next step is to add pocket holes to the plywood. The frame of the cabinet is actually called a carcass, but I prefer the term frame, so that's what I'm going to use for this tutorial. Use a Craig jig and add pocket holes to the cabinet frame bottom and top and back supports. Begin to build the frame by attaching the top plywood board to one of the sides with 1 1/4 inch Craig screws and wood glue. Repeat with the other side board. One quick tip for assembling the second sideboard is to place one of the back support boards in between the two sides to help hold them in place. Clamps really help with this step, especially the Craig right angle clamp. Next, attach the bottom plywood board to the sideboards. Except for this board, you want to make sure to attach the bottom of it 3/4 inch up from the bottom of the sideboards. This is so our face frame and bottom shelf will be aligned with each other. The next step is to add the back support boards with Craig screws along the inside top and bottom edges. These boards will be used for screwing the cabinet into the wall studs. The last frame step is to attach the 1/4 inch backing board to the back support boards with a brad nailer and 3/4 inch brad nails. Step 4 is to build and attach the face frame of the wall cabinet. Measure the exact height and width of your cabinet frame to determine your face frame measurements. Use a miter saw and cut the 1x2s and 1x3s to size for the face frame. We're using a 1x3 for the top of the face frame because we are attaching crown molding along the top. We added pocket holes to the face frame top and bottom boards. Then the face frame boards were attached together with wood glue and Craig screws. To help keep the face frame square and prevent it from sagging inwards after nailing it to the cabinet frame, we found it best to build it separately before attaching it to the cabinet frame. Once assembled, we nailed the face frame to the cabinet frame along with some wood glue. Now it's time to build the cabinet door. Measure the exact height and width for the opening of the cabinet. For an 1/8 inch gap around the door, you want to subtract a 1/4 inch from the length and width of the cabinet opening to determine the door measurements. Then you can cut the cabinet door lumber to size. For attaching everything together, we added pocket holes to the door rails, which are the horizontal boards on both ends, as well as the 1/2 inch thick plywood board that we're using for the middle. For constructing the door, it helps to add 1/4 inch scrap wood under the 1/2 inch thick plywood for easy assembly to the 1x3s. Begin constructing the door by attaching the door rails to the plywood board with 1-inch Kreg screws and wood glue. Then attach the door stiles the same way, again keeping the 1/4-inch scrap wood under the plywood to help. Also, at this point, it's easiest to drill the holes for the cabinet knobs or pulls, but we forgot to do that, so you can do it now or you can do it at the end. For installing the door, make sure to follow the directions that came with the inset door hinges you are using. For our inset European hinges, we drilled the door hinge holes using the Kreg concealed door hinge jig. We've used this several times and it works great. To attach the door hinges to the door, use a square to help keep the hinge in place, as well as clamps, and pre-drill holes for the screws. We used a self-centering drill bit to get perfectly centered pre-drilled holes. Because we used inset frameless hinges instead of inset face frame hinges, we had to add a 1x3 board along the inside edge of our cabinet to make the face frame work with the frameless hinges. If you were using inset face frame hinges, you wouldn't have to do this step. At this point, before attaching the door hinges to the cabinet frame, we found it easiest to go ahead and attach our wall cabinet to the wall. We also put a temporary 2x4 board up to help with this step and to keep the cabinet level while we attached it to the wall. We used 3.5-inch screws through the back supports into our wall studs, making sure it was level when attaching it. Next, the hinge plates were attached to the cabinet frame according to the diagram on our hinge instructions. Then the door was attached to the frame. Initially, our door sat inward some, which happens with these inset hinges, so we installed a magnetic door catch to prevent this from happening. Then the hinges were adjusted for the best placement of the door with an even gap. We'll end up adjusting it even more after we paint the door. The next step is to install the crown molding. We used the classic no compound miter cut method for cutting our crown molding outside corners. This is where the crown is turned upside down on the miter saw fence. This works best with wood crown molding rather than MDF crown. We installed the crown with some wood glue on the corner and brad nails into the cabinet frame. Brandon helped hold it in place so it was installed exactly how we wanted it. Now that our cabinet is all built, it's time to prep for paint. We prepped for the paint by caulking where it was needed, filling nail holes with spackle, and we also filled the seams on the side of the face frame with some wood filler and sanded for a flush finish. Once we were finished with our first DIY wall cabinet, we built another one for the other side of our laundry room wall, except this one we had to make a bit more custom due to the dryer duct vent placement. We primed our cabinets first and then painted it with 2 coats of paint. The last step is to install shelves if you want to. We drilled holes for our shelves using the Kreg shelf pin jig. This would have been easier to do before assembling the cabinet frame, but oh well. The last finishing touch was to add our new cabinet knobs. I will link below where I found these. I love them. They're so beautiful and they're great quality. Thanks for watching today, and don't forget to get the printable build plans linked below this video. And if you're interested in more DIY cabinets, make sure to check out my DIY built-in cabinet video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.